have a broad question. 2016 was probably the first time I had been politically engaged after being in the Army for some time and being deployed. Just that's a whole nother world to even explain that to people, that a culture that really doesn't want the story of what happens overseas in the name of empire to be told at all.
That's right.
But where does the left go from here? If I find it to be a very sad state. Jill Stein's name has pretty much been dragged through the mud. She can probably no longer effectively participate in the political system. The Democratic Party, as much as Ocasio-Cortez seems like she'll bring change, she still has to go up against a huge apparatus that will silence her, I think.
Yeah,
where do we go?
Where do we go? We go to the street. We look at people like Standing Rock. We look at all of the great radical movements that were shut out of power. I mean, we've gone through vicious periods of American history. I don't know if you know James Cone, but if you don't, you should read him, Crossing the Lynching. We've just lost him. This most important theologian in America and one of the great moral voices of our time. But as James kept saying, people will say Malcolm was so radical. Malcolm said what he said in Harlem. When King got up and said what he said in Montgomery, it meant that the next day walking down the street, he could be dead. And I think that we have to uncover or find again with us that kind of moral courage represented by the great figures of resistance. And we have to begin what we saw in South Africa, which brought down apartheid, which is non-cooperation. We have to do everything in our power to build alternative structures to pit power against power, and we have to do everything in our power to obstruct the workings of the corporate state. And that's what the Wobblies did. That's what the old CIO did. That's what they did in the civil rights movement. That's what the Communist Party did. That's what the Progressive Party did. We have antecedents. They erased this from American history. That's what the Bonus Marchers did, which, of course, MacArthur went in and evicted them by force. And, politics is a game of fear, and we have to make them frightened of us. That's our goal. That's the only way they're kept in check. So there's a passage in Kissinger's memoirs, which hopefully is not being sold in this bookstore. Do not go buy it. It's 1971. Tens of thousands of anti-war protesters around the White House. Nixon has put empty city buses end-to-end around the White House's barricades, and he's standing at the window looking out, wringing his hands next to Kissinger, going, Henry, they're going to break through the barricades and get us. It's our job to make people in power feel fear. That's our job. And until we do that, and believe me, I have relatives who are on Wall Street, and Zuccotti, which was absolutely did not pose any physical threat to these predators on Wall Street, they were terrified. They wouldn't even go out for lunch. They had all their private security firms tweeting or telling them every hour, they're on Bond Street now. They have a giant puppet octopus in front of Goldman Sachs. Really. There are a lot. You know why they're so scared? Because they know even better than we do how corrupt and fixed the system is. That's why Bernanke was on his knees, and unfortunately, Obama didn't stand up for us. He stood up for the bankers. So that's it. That's the only hub. We haven't even talked about climate change. I mean, that's why Standing Rock is so important. That's why blocking the railroad tracks in the Northwest, who are bringing down the pyramid, that's what we got to do. That's it. And I think they understand how hated they are, and that makes them weak, and that gets into the whole issue of violence as the great. And then we're talking about revolution, by the way. I'm talking about the overthrow of the corporate state, and for the Homeland Security person who's here, that's overthrow, O-V-E-R. Because these people are going to kill us, and they're going to kill my children. And in the end, these corporate forces have us. They have us by the throat, and they have my kids by the throat. And I don't know if we're going to win. I don't even know if we're going to survive as a species. But in the end, I don't fight fascism because I win. I fight fascists because they are fascists. And that moral almost religious quality is one that we have to embrace, what Niebuhr calls sublime madness. That understanding that radical evil must be opposed, even if everything around us says that we will fail. And when we find that, and when we have the courage to stand up and defy it, we may not win in an ultimate sense, but we will be free. I mean, I teach in a prison. They imposed a rule in the prison that my students had to walk past the guards down the corridors with their eyes down. And they refused. They walked down the corridors with their eyes up. It sounds little, but it's not. That's what we have to do. And we have to understand that not the Democratic Party, no system now, there are no institutions in this country left that are authentically democratic. There are no institutions that are going to protect us or protect our children or protect the ecosystem on which we depend for life. It's up to us. And at least let us find that courage so that whatever generation comes after us will say they were not passive and they were not complicit.